We want to date someone, that's perfect. Everybody deserves love, happiness, respect, and dignity. But before dating someone else, can you conquer yourself, conquer your past?
You are your own greatest ally or enemy. Awaken the warrior within you. Take charge of your inner kingdom. Welcome to the Warrior Growth Academy podcast.
Welcome to the Warrior Growth Academy podcast, where we build our mental strength to not only survive, but to thrive in this life. And one of the key components to thriving and fully living life is sex, love, connection. Don't we all want these beautiful things with ourselves and with others? And today's guest is very juicy, and we're gonna go deep into this subject, no pun intended. Kanica, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, cool. What an amazing introduction that is. Like, imagine if I started every one of my appointments with that line.
You could pay me for it, and I'll come wherever you are.
You'll be like my ghostwriter and writing all my introduction.
I can even come on stage and just say these two lines and then go back, and you come on stage and everyone loves you because of me.
All right.
I love it.
Yeah, so let's get deep into it, as you said, pun intended.
Yes,
and
yes.
yeah, sexology is all what I'm about.
Before going deeper, I know you have a kind of a weird, I want to say, background and journey. Can you tell me a little bit how you came to become today this sex expert and love and connection, but the journey wasn't exactly there.
No, it wasn't set out to be that way.
No.
I didn't start when I was 5. I was like, I will be a sexology. No. I joined. So when I was 16, I did what every kid at 16 does, which is want to like working. And instead of going to work at a retail store, I was like, I'll join the Canadian Army. Okay.
Nice.
So yeah. So from 16 to 21, for 5 years, I was in the Canadian Forces as a military member. And I had 5 amazing years. It's really what made me an adult. It made me an adult. It gave me all the confidence that I am today, and it propelled me to the entrepreneur and the writer also that I am today. So 5 years of that. After, I could have stayed there and made a career out of it. It's a good job. But then I went to travel 30 countries and plus with the money from the army, thanks to the Queen. Travel solo. And 30 countries. I was like 21, 22. I didn't go to university. And after my year of being like a bum traveler, I was like, I want to go to university, okay? But because I didn't have a college, like the mandatory CEGEP, like college degree in Quebec, I could only apply to a few universities. And I chose sexology because I thought sexology, the name is fun. It sounds like sex and love. Which it is, all right? But it's way more serious than that. So the studies were hard. I completed my diploma, 3 years, and after graduating, I started my private practice. And now, fast forward 5 years later, here I am today with a team and doing these amazing projects where I get to educate people on sexology.
Amazing. Before going, obviously, in this direction, what would be a great lesson that you've learned in your years in the army? Because that's for sure not an experience that, most of people have. And I'm sure you've learned some things about yourself, about life, about others that maybe still applies today.
Okay, well, that's unexpected questions. The army taught, okay, so I don't fit this like typical army, like when you think of an army, well, you think of a guy who's way more muscular than I am. And what I liked about the Canadian Forces is that it's Canadian Forces plural. We all have different strengths. So my strength is not physical brute force, but I have other strengths. And that's what makes a team really strong. It's not true that because I'm a woman, because I'm small, and because I'm not white, I had a great experience. It's what you make out of it, okay? And people, like any group, will accept you if you contribute to the group, regardless of, no, I can't take like the biggest rucksack, and I can't, I don't have physical force, but I have other types of strength. So that's why I fit so much in the group. So, and knowing that and not positioning myself as a minority or a victim, it made me understand, okay, life, I am the captain of my life. I am the architect of my life. And regardless of the circumstances, whether it be me being in the military in a very, like, a minority, or me coming from a very difficult childhood, I can really transform this in a way that's super fulfilling for me.
Wow.
So yeah, long answer to a short question.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Okay, so fast forwarding today, you have your clinic, you're seeing people on a daily basis. People come to you in couples or single. They want to, spice up their sex life. They want to have more connection. What are the things that you see mostly? What are the issues mostly that you see? And also, the work that you do with people?
Yeah, so what you mentioned is very interesting. So how to spice up our sex life, couples coming to see me. I gotta say, most of my clients aren't couples. So I'll say that a third of my clients are couples and 2/3 are individuals. And then people will ask, I'm like, well, if a couple comes, the two of them have to be really motivated to come. And sometimes, sometimes one of them will be like, hey, do you want to go seek help? And then the other will be more reluctant. So if one of them is reluctant, it's not the best use of their time, money, and energy. So they come in solo. And then people will come in and say like, oh, I want to discover and explore my sex life. I want to be more liberated. I want to have more confidence and spice up my sex life. I'm like, okay, that sounds very fun. When people talk about it that way, they talk about the accelerators. Okay, so let's imagine that in your sex life, you have like brakes and accelerators. People talk, and in society, in the magazines and on the radio, you'll often hear about the accelerators because it's more fun to talk about. What kind of lingerie, how to like integrate, how to be more flirty. But that's the easy part to talk about when it comes to sex problems. It's much more hard to talk about the breaks. The breaks are stuff like, have you been molested when you were younger? Like, have you ever had any experience that were considered like non-consensual? Or you as a guy, have you ever had any experience where you felt like you didn't perform? So breaks are just more difficult and shameful to talk about. So people come in talking about like, how can I spice up my sex life? And I'm like, okay, we need to talk about everything that's uncomfortable and that your memory tries to repress, because that's how I'll really get to solve your problem. And when we think of any sex coach, we think of something that's like fun, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I can sell you that, but I'm not a seller. My goal is for you to not come and see me back in 2 years with the same problem. So, sorry, not sorry, but it is emotional work. Like, we'll have to dive into things that are like emotional, psychological, spiritual. Okay, coming back to a question. What do you think is the like top 2 or 3 reasons why people come seek help in sexology?
I would say they want more connection if they're in a couple, so they feel kind of disconnected physically and maybe mentally. I would say you've mentioned kind of, I think especially for guys, the performance part, right? So they want to perform better. And maybe they want, you've mentioned already, spicing things up, connection. What else could be there?
I mean, that's pretty good. But if I had to grade you, I would put like X on your answers, okay? Because they're valid. Like, we definitely talk about that in sessions, definitely. But they're not the main reasons why people, like when they fill out the little box in the appointment platform, they don't write that, okay? Why? Because when people go see a professional, usually it's their last resource, and usually there's a lot of suffering or sometimes even distress associated to that, okay? And, private practice can be expensive for some people. So if you're about to pay that much money, it has to be like a very like big problem. So it has to cause suffering. So what cause suffering, or maybe like even be a source of potential breakup, okay? So what is a cause of potential breakup? Couples who don't have sex for like years, okay? Loss of sex drive for years. Guys will often come for anything related to their penis, so erection, ejaculation. Men and women, so the number one topic I'll say that is a decreased sex drive. So people who are like, I don't have libido anymore, like what's wrong with me? Am I broken? I've been like that for a few months, like a few years. What's wrong with me? And my partner is, sometimes the partner is most of the time partners are understanding, but then the person that's affected is like, but I don't want to make him or her like wait anymore, and I think that she or he is like her patience or his patience is thinning out, right? So they want to do something about that, but most of the time they've accumulated the problem, so they come when it's like their last resource, and that's not a good thing. But anyway, it's already a good thing that they come seek help. So libido is the number one thing. Then I would say for guys, it's really porn. Like they'll say like, I'm addicted to porn, or they'll say I come too fast, or I can't get hard. Okay. So erection and ejaculation. Women, they'll also mention quite often like difficulty to orgasm. So those are like the main topics why people come through our door. But then, coming back to what you said, we just have to dig a little, and then we talk about all these things like lack of connection to oneself and to the other. The way that people interact with each other, so like conflict as well. And most people will say like, oh, Kanica, we don't fight. Like we're not that type of couple. I'm like, no, but you should know that most couples don't break up because of fights. Like most couples don't break up because of fire. Most couples break up because of ice, because they don't talk, because of an emotional distance that's been slowly, gradually, like going through the years. So that's way more dangerous than big fights. Like, of course, we see on TV and movies like couples that fight, but most of the time, couples, when they break up, it's not because of fire, it's because of ice. So, yeah, they'll come in and be like, oh, I don't really want to have sex. Oh, I'm like, okay, talk to me about your relationship. And then they talk to me about the relationship. I'm like, that's not a very fulfilling relationship. It's very functional, but it's functional. It's not fulfilling. So maybe that's why your brain doesn't want you to have sex and connect with that person.
What do you mean by functional?
When a couple is functional, it means, good question. When a couple is functional, it means that they're good at functioning on a daily basis. Like, let's say they live together, and let's say they have kids. They're functional when they like have their family life in order, when they know how to manage the business of being a couple and of sharing a household, even if they don't have kids. Like that being a functional couple means like having a satisfying daily life. It can be satisfying, but is it fulfilling? That's like a threshold, and that's a personal definition. So again, yesterday, one of my clients was telling me she's wondering if she wants to stay or quit her relationship, which is also super common for people to come and talk to me about. And then I'm like, okay, just describe me your current situation with your current partner. And she talks to me about it. But there's no like, I don't want to say passion, because passion is not like mandatory in every long-term relationship. But I'm like, hey, the way that you describe it sounds very functional. Like, you know how to manage a team, basically like the team that you are, and you share a household and bills, and like that's already a big enterprise. Like for me, that's really a business. So you're good business partners. But what about the spiritual connection, the emotional connection? What makes that different from like a flatmate or a business partner plus? Like, what's the difference? And then people are confused because they've been in this situation and this comfort for years. And I don't want to diminish comfort. Comfort and structure and routine is important. But having that little thing inside of you that makes you think, hey, that's my special person, and I choose you every day when I wake up, that's important too. Oh man, coming back to your question, there's something else I wanted to add.
I don't even know about my question. I want to follow up on that.
Really? Okay.
This is good. So first of all, to confirm, this is something that is possible for anyone, meaning having a relationship, especially long-term, that is fulfilling and beautiful,
yes.
and you're choosing the other person every day. Yes?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Okay, so it's not normal to, after 5 years, 10 years, you're like kind of best friends or business partners.
No, okay, so it's normal in a sense that it is, unfortunately, it is the norm. Like, it is what happens naturally. So it's the norm in that sense, but it shouldn't be the norm. So I want to tell people, so people ask me like, oh, do you still believe in love? Like, you see all these couples that have problems. Like, of course I still believe in love. The same way that a doctor oncologist who sees like cancer every day, he still believes in life. He still believes in health. So the trick, it's easy to understand, it's hard to apply. The trick for your love life and your sex life, two things. No.
5, 20.
No, I was like, which fingers are used? Two things: so sex life and love life, novelty and intentionality. Okay, so couples will come or individuals and they'll be like, oh, I don't understand. There's not like we're functional and like we really good on a daily basis, but like I feel like we don't have anything exciting, blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, so there's no what's the problem? There's no intentionality and there's no novelty. So that's why even for your sex life, you have to add novelty and intentionality. What does that mean? Dating. You have to date again, okay? And what do we do when we're dating? When we're first starting to know someone, we go on dates. What is dating? It's quality time, schedule. Oftentimes there's novelty because you do new shit, right? You go see like a new theater and you like things you know, like. Okay, I gotta say, I'm not super like an artsy person. But if I go on dates and the other one proposes like an exhibition, I'm like, yeah, I'm curious. It's not something I normally do, so it adds novelty, okay? And intentionality is like schedule, not being in cruise control mode. For your sex life, even when you date and you do non-sexual things, that even helps your sex life. It's like a natural impact or consequence. So when people are like, oh, how can I spice up my sex life? Well, first of all, we have to address first, before starting about dating and novelty and intentionality, we have to address like any conflict, any unaddressed issues. In French, Quebecer, we say des crottes sur le cœur, like little shits on your heart. Yeah. If you have little shits on your heart, then within the dynamic of the relationship, that will have an impact on your sex life. So when people say, oh, I don't understand, we don't really fight. I'm like, but you don't need to fight for your brain to not want to have sex. Like, the way that your brain perceives the other, that's enough for your brain to not want sex. So even if there's not a big ongoing fight, if your brain perceives your partner as being, let's say, super fragile, dependent, maybe like a child, and not capable, your brain is not going to find your partner erotic, right? So, plus concrètement, more concretely, dynamics really have an impact. So some typical dynamics that I see in couples that have a negative impact on sex lives, is, for example, the dynamic of therapist-patient. So, for example, I'm dating someone. Okay, I'm going to switch the rules. I'm dating someone, and I just lost my dad. I had like a illness, and I have a depression. Okay, that would be a hard time for me. And then my partner, one of his roles would be to be there for me and be like my informal therapist. That's normal. It's part of the job of being a boyfriend, like part of. But if that's ongoing for 2-3 years, like, how do you think his brain, his psyche, is going to perceive me? Okay. Not as being an erotic goddess, okay? So maybe that will affect the way that he sees me. Another example I can give is another dynamic is like teacher, student, brother, sister. So, or just child parent. For example, a girl was coming to see me. She's like, I don't really want to have sex with my boyfriend. I'm like, okay, talk to me about your life. She goes, my boyfriend, he's a good guy, but when he wakes up in the morning, the only thing he has to think about is his job. Whereas I have my job to think about, and I have to make sure that the toilet paper is filled in the bathroom. Like, he doesn't know why the orange juice in the fridge magically appears. I have to think about that, okay? So in that way, she feels like she's kind of like a mother to him. So how do you think her brain sees her boyfriend? Her brain is not like, wow, what a manly, independent, reliable partner. So the brain is like, no. Anyway, I think I went on another tangent there.
Amazing. No, but also just now to follow through, because I know in one of your classes you mentioned a lot the relationship. Now you've talked a lot about the dynamics and the roles and how it comes together in a beautiful or in a less beautiful way, but also the relationship with oneself.
Yeah.
Tell me about this.
Yeah, okay, that's really good. So I spoke about like, let's say therapists and patient. Let's take me again as an example. If I don't feel good in my body, in my soul, in my mind, in just myself, how do you want me to connect with someone else sexually or romantically? So when people come and see me, they often think when it comes to dating or sex, they want to like, they spend a lot of time talking about the other person. But I'm like, before dating other people, would you date yourself? Would you date yourself? Would you marry yourself? Would you fuck yourself? I know that's a funny question, but that's really what I ask my clients. Would you do all these things with yourself? If the answer is no, why would someone else marry you, date you, and fuck you? Come, it's so clear to me. And I'm not saying like you have to be 100% the best version of yourself. I'm not saying that. I'm not even saying you have to be 90% of your best version. But you have to be at least 60%, like the passing grade, okay? Because if you don't even enjoy your own company, if you're not even aware of your strength, your weaknesses, the value that you bring, why your existence is a blessing in other people's life, if you don't believe that for yourself, why would you put the burden on someone else to see that for you and then remind you of that? That's a big role, okay? So your well, like the water of your well, it has to be filled with your own water first. Of course, someone else can like add to that, but you are the main responsible person for your own like self-esteem, basically. Absolutely. So when people talk about dating, or when they hear or when they research about dating on like other classes or books and all that, it's way too much geared towards what kind of partner do you want, what do you want out of the relationship, out of the other person. I'm like, what do you have to give? What state of your life are you in? Like, please assess yourself. And okay, I know I'm very direct, okay? But I want people to stop turning the focus and the lens on the other or the relationship and turn it back on themselves. Like, what do you have to bring, good or bad? For example, me, I really had to question myself. Okay, I want to be someone's girlfriend. What are my strengths as a girlfriend or just as a human being? But also, in what ways am I fucking crazy as a girlfriend? Okay, and I gotta be real with myself. And then knowing that, I gotta accept myself and be like, okay, when I come into a relationship, these are the ways that my personal failures or past can ruin this future relationship. But I have to be aware of that. I have to be cognizant of that. Instead of doing dating in the dark, like people will date and they'll do like dating in the dark. It's like they go and it's like hitting a piñata with their eyes closed. Yeah. And then they're like, oh, I don't understand why it doesn't work. It doesn't work because you're dating inauthentically, unconsciously. So dating yourself starts with spending time with yourself. The amount of people who are uncomfortable spending time alone publicly, that fascinates me. So dating yourself, what does that look like? Do you travel? Can you travel alone? Oh no, that's way too scary. Okay. Can you go to the movies alone or a restaurant alone? But then they're like, but at the restaurant, you go to the bar and like you're alone and people see you. I'm like, yeah, that's the point. That's the point, is like to you not care about what other people think because you're having a goddamn time, like a good goddamn time with yourself. Because you're at the bar eating oysters by yourself. I'm with my good book, watching hockey when I never watch hockey by myself. Like I never watch hockey in general by myself or with someone else. So it's just like you gotta date yourself and enjoy the time that you are by yourself. So if you don't have any, like let's say after your job and after hanging out with friends and your family, what do? You should have something that you want to do. Like you're supposed to have interests. Why? Because having interest is the way that you invest a relationship with yourself. Okay. People tell me like, oh, after work, I like hanging out with my friends is a hobby. I'm like, that's not a hobby. That's called filling up your schedule with other people, basically. And I'm not the one who invented that, right? So I'm just taking back the ideas of the president of the Board of Psychologists of Quebec, who said in a conference that people have to get acquainted with their own solitude because there's healthy solitude and there's unhealthy solitude. But I'm going to say that again. There is healthy solitude, and people should like really invest and discover themselves in that way. So yeah, like solo interest, self-dating, going on like having quality time by yourself. You should, like at the end of the day, on a Saturday night, if you have nothing to do, you should have something to look forward to spend time with yourself. For me, it's writing, scrapbooking, listening to new music, going to restaurants alone and just having to pay for my own own food. So I'm thinking of a client I have. He's like entrepreneur. He's quite busy. Okay, great group of friends, family as well. But then he goes like, Saturday night sometimes I don't have anything to do, and so I go on dates. I'm like, yes. You go on complicated, like the dates you go are quite complicated, like they're complicated people, okay? Why do you fill up your time with this kind of dates? He goes, well, I don't have anything to do. I'm like, well, you have to find something to do, or else naturally you fill up your schedule and your time and your space with with dating. Okay, so find yourself a hobby. Like you have to get yourself a garage, or you have to like buy a chalet or cottage. So you start tinkering with stuff, and because he's a manual guy. So yeah, that's really important. Investing in yourself, investing in your own solo relationship, and your solitude before doing that with someone else. The amount of people who are not capable of spending time with their own thoughts. Okay, they'll say like, "Oh, I understand what you're saying. Can you pick up? I just don't like being alone. Like I get easily bored." I'm like, "You're bored? Okay, well, why don't you play Sudoku? Why don't you can do a crossword?" But they're like, but it's really not this. I prefer people." I'm like, "Yeah, you prefer people. Why? Because it stops you from being alone with your thoughts. And what happens when you're alone with your thoughts? Most of the time, well, people spiral. Like some stuff that people have been repressing come up. What kind of stuff come up? Existential questions. Like, I'm unhappy.
That you need to answer.
Stuff like, I might be unhappy with my life. I don't know where I'm going. Oh, I'm afraid of dying alone. Like that's a very common fear, dying alone and like never finding someone, never finding connection. But those are very difficult conversations to have with oneself. The ego, the psyche doesn't like having uncomfortable discussions like that, like entertaining those things. So we put them like under the rug. But then they come up when? Sometimes just before going to bed, when we're not distracting ourselves with work and all that, or when we're alone with our thoughts. So people would do anything to distract themselves. Porn and people, basically. Porn and people, that's a very effective way of distracting oneself of this existential question that we really have to address if you want to conquer yourself, basically. So, again, a super long answer to a short question, but we want to date someone, that's perfect. Everybody deserves love, happiness, respect, and dignity. But before dating someone else, can you conquer yourself, conquer your past? Think about what you have to bring, positive and negative, as a girlfriend, as a boyfriend. What might you work on before entering a relationship? Because any work that you do on yourself becomes a gift to your future partners. And I want people to see it that way. So again, just to be sure, I want people to really understand that I'm not saying you have to be 90% of the best version of you. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying like, please date yourself and learn how to appreciate and value yourself before entering a relationship.
Absolutely. And just to add on the point of boredom, it is something that we kind of very clearly labeled as negative, right? I'm bored, AKA this is uncomfortable, but also this is, there's nothing sexy and exciting about boredom. Or at least the reputation of the word is clearly not associated with something like yay, but
it's important. It serves a function.
Exactly. And this is where exactly those thoughts come up.
Creativity.
Why? Because they need to be faced.
Exactly.
And what happens when you put dust under a rug? It stays there. And what happens when you put more dust, or even if, let's say, the dust can reproduce itself, the dust grows.
Yeah, it grows.
And those thoughts, those uncomfortable thoughts that come up when you're bored will not go away, especially if it's something important. Sure, if it's like little thoughts, random stuff, of course, stuff go away. But the existential questions, all those things that might give you a little sense of, I'm losing control here, this is uncomfortable, but this is exactly the perfect opportunity because you don't even had to find the questions you need to answer. You just got the question that popped. Just face it now. And the beauty is, it can be in 10, 15 minutes. You don't have to spend a whole day of boredom answering existential hard questions. No, it can be literally just 10, 15 minutes. Of course, there's practices that can help you. You can, get into a more zen state. You can, have a setting of relaxation, whatever. But regardless of the context, the environment, if you face those questions, not only they will be handled, but also you will grow from them.
In boredom lies so much wisdom, okay? In boredom, there's wisdom that wants to be discovered, but we have to give it time. I really like the nuance that the idea that you're bringing up. Nowadays, we don't know how to tolerate boredom, okay? And it's not boredom. We don't know how to tolerate being yourself with our thoughts and being the human condition, basically, okay? So reminds me of you probably know the Eisenhower matrix, the decision-making matrix. There's two axes: urgency and importance. So these kind of questions, the existential questions, they're important but not urgent. So that's why we can always put them as, and like, it's important but it's not urgent. So I don't need to deal with them right now.
Yeah.
But that's the danger. The danger is that we never deal with them. So we just like we keep ourselves busy with busyness and like things that we have to do, like answering emails or like just running our business. But there's danger in that. And in boredom, when I said that in boredom lies so much wisdom, is because that's where you will connect with yourself. Is it easy? No. And when you said 10, 15 minutes, I like that. You don't have to wallow in your negative emotions for the whole day, but learn gradually how to sit with it. So we read a lot about that on Instagram and Therapy World. Sit with it. What does sitting with it means? Sit with your emotion. It means that nowadays in your hyper-connected, fast-paced modern world, we all want quick fixes. At any time we feel something uncomfortable, we can just have it solved right away. Like, I want something, have it delivered right now. Amazon Prime now, okay?
Yeah.
So there's no more waiting. There's no more tolerating uncomfortable emotions. So when you're bored, let it simmer, mijoter, like a stew, okay? Like a ragout. You let it there, and then it's uncomfortable. But train yourself. You have to train yourself to conquer yourself. You conquer your mind. You conquer your insecurities. You conquer your like you being a human being, basically, okay? With a conscience. Like anybody with a conscience, that's what happens.
That's part of the experience. It's not supposed to be easy, smooth. It's supposed to be rocky.
And it's not mindless. Like it's so easy for us to live a mindless life, okay? So I have another example when it comes to boredom, okay? With who do I speak a lot about boredom? Guys. When you talk to me about their use of porn, okay? So one of my classes I did on Warrior Growth Academy is about like porn.
And the addiction to it and all the
ways
the impact. Yeah.
The ways that guys use porn, okay? And they'll typically tell me like, oh, I use it when I'm bored. Then I masturbate and I ejaculate and then I go to sleep. I'm like, okay. The way you talk to me about it sounds very like matter of fact, but you come and pay me good money because there's a problem. Tell me what's the problem, okay? So when we dig a little bit more, when they feel comfortable opening up and being vulnerable with me, then inevitably they get to admit that they don't really feel good, like before and after. Maybe during. It's fun. You're aroused.
For like a split
for
second.
a split, and then you ejaculate in a Kleenex in front of a screen. That's a very lonely experience when you think about it. It's not something you're proud of. It's not like the pinnacle of sexual connection with oneself, right?
Yeah.
So then they say like, oh, I do it because I'm bored. I'm like, you're not, like, it's not boredom. If you were bored, you could call a friend, you could play basketball, you could do a crossword. No, like if we dig more, you want to feel connection to yourself. Like ideally, most guys are like, yeah, I would rather have sex with a human being, but I don't have a girlfriend or partner right now. I don't have someone available. So the most efficient way for them to connect with their spirituality, with their soul, with their inner self, their emotion, like their self, is through sexuality, and sexuality with themselves. So masturbation, okay? So they want to connect with themselves. They feel there's a sort of existential loneliness, but they don't admit it. Like they don't tell it like that, but that's what it is, right? They want to connect with another human being. Like they would rather feel the warmth and the skin of someone else, but they don't have that. So they masturbate. So at least they have that with themselves, okay? It's fun for a few seconds, for a few minutes. After, they go to bed. But like, it's not like they feel emotionally fulfilled, right? Because sometimes after, the whole context makes them feel even more lonely. Because then there's like post-nut clarity, to tell me, And they're like, Kanica, I'm really alone, and I wish I had a partner, and I wish everybody wants to be in love, basically. Yeah. We talk about sex. Sex is cool. Sex is fun. Sex is even more fun when you're really in love. Like that's a fact. Like it's not a girl thing. Like guys say that as well. It's not the mainstream message that we have concerning the men's sex life, but like men as women, we have the same basic 6 emotions. Most of us, we want 99%, we want to be in love. We want to find our special person. And when we have sex with that person, it's not having sex, it's making love. It's lovemaking. So that's like another level of connection, right?
Yeah.
So
The
yeah, go ahead.
paradox
Yeah.
of masturbating in front of your computer and trying to fill that hole is that then, if I'm not mistaken, you have a decrease of testosterone, if I'm not mistaken. So that means that you have less kind of this internal power and desire to even approach a real human being the next day, for example, right?
I don't feel it's not like anything regarding hormones is not my specialty, so I don't feel comfortable talking about that. But I like we were talking about before, like the analogy of like spirituality and seeds. Can you tell me again your idea of that? I like that, and I don't know how to phrase it correctly.
Well, it was just kind of a continuity of what you just described as kind of this act that isn't very, at least psychologically empowering, because you are in your bed or on your couch with a laptop on your knees and you're watching two other people have what looks like, quote unquote, in a cinematic and imagined world pleasure, and you're alone with a Kleenex in your hand and you get the job done. So obviously the mindset is not really empowering, but also on a more spiritual way, this is for men, these are the seeds of life. This is the element that when it comes in connection with the women, it gives birth. So using it or wasting it in a Kleenex is clearly not only not empowering, but especially is not giving the respect and acknowledging the power within you. It's as if you have this magic potion in your hand.
That's worth like $1,000.
And you just spill it on the floor because there's like a little mosquito and you want to, take away the mosquito, and you're like, yeah, I have more of this, or this is not worth anything, this is not special. So this is something we have within us, again, just talking about the men part, but this is something that when we just realize, just like even take a step back and see the power of those seeds, this is not something that then is logical to waste in a Kleenex 5 times a week.
Yeah, and I've never thought about it that way, but it's so interesting the way that you phrase it. Because there's definitely like a concept around like powerful, and and what makes me think when you say that image is like, how do guys feel right after ejaculating in Kleenex? They don't feel manly. They don't feel powerful. They don't feel like I have a lot of confidence and I'm ready to approach the world and like tackle all my projects, and like they don't feel like that. It's more like a physiological release, and it makes them want to go to sleep. Okay. So, and I want to make sure that people know that I don't want to demonize porn. It's not that. It's, if you do it once in a while and you take it like as a sleeping pill, it's fine. But if you do it as a substitute for human connection, either with yourself or with another human, that's when it becomes more of like a crutch. And I want guys to reevaluate and reassess their relationship with porn. Like, what role does it have in your life? Is it a crutch? Is it maybe your only way of dealing with your stressors? Because it is a physiological release, so it's efficient at releasing stress. Okay, but other than masturbation in front of porn, like, do guys have other types of strategies? When I ask them, look, how do you cope with your stress? And they'll tell me like maximum 5 strategies. I'm like, dude, you're supposed to have like 15 or 20 in your toolbox right now, so you don't have a lot of tools. So I want you to get to that point. And I want you to get to that point where you can still masturbate and watch porn, but with another approach to it, right? So that's really what I want. It's a relationship to porn. The porn itself is not that bad. Although, it's really the relationship. It's the fact that the guys have been watching porn since they're like 12, 15 years old. Then what does that do? It makes people... It brainwashes people. It brainwashes guys into thinking that there's a way that sex is supposed to be done. And even when guys say, "Oh no, Kanica, I know it's not reality. I know it's a script. I know they're actors and they're acting." Rationally, they know that, and they're smart. They're smart, so I know they know that. But when they go in the bedroom, their internal standards and what they're used to reproducing, but not recreating, is still the same scripts from porn. And the problem with that is that there's only one scenario, let's say. It always starts with like men are the dominant role, the woman is submissive. You touch, you lick her elbow, and she's like she has all the pleasure in the world. So it really gives an idea, like a skewed idea of what pleasure and connection is, and they like it just fucks a lot of people's standards. And unfortunately, because of that, porn gives me a lot of business, and it shouldn't be that way because it fucks up so many people's standards and like people's norm of what sex is. That that's not real life. They come in counseling asking like, am I normal? Like that's, it's not always easy like that. It's not fluid. It's not like, it's not supposed to be. Like it's so far, like what we see is so far off. So guys integrate that message for like decades because they've been watching porn and they've been conditioning themselves with porn for years. And then women also, oddly enough, even if women watch less porn, they're also brainwashed by the same message because it's the only message. That's the problem. The recipe, like let's say that that's the lasagna recipe. The lasagna recipe is not the problem. The problem is the lack of variety of recipe. We only eat one type of lasagna. How about Vietnamese food? How about Congolese food? How about Sichuanese food? So that's the problem. And women, they integrate the same script, the same message, because even if they don't watch porn, well, they sleep with guys who watch porn. So then they absorb the message from these guys. So it's like an endless loop of unconscious and mindless sex life. And then they come to see me when they're like, I don't know, 30, 40, and they're like, I don't really, they wake up one day and they're like, I don't enjoy my sex life. I might be asexual. I'm like, maybe you are asexual. Asexuality is a type of sexual orientation. It is a legit thing. Like it's been studied. I can send you an article from my university. See if you recognize yourself in that. And 100% of the times, clients don't recognize themselves in that scientific article because they then realize, oh, I don't think I'm asexual. I think I've had a shitty sex life ever since I started having sex. Definitely. You've been eating fast food, a fast food lasagna since you were like maybe 15 or like when you lost virginity. So that's why you think you're not like confident in your sex life and you don't like your sex life. So there's a lot of unpacking to do. There's so much social deconditioning to do because the only sex education people have is porn. So we don't like, there's no sexual education from parents because so the only type of sex education we have is porn, and that's not
education.
No, that's not education. Exactly. No. So
wow.
Yeah.
Very interesting. And honestly, first of all, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for having those 2 amazing classes on the platform. So make sure to check it out. There's one class, of course, it's a little bit more tailored towards men in order to show you the reality of your relationship with porn, not in the goal of making you stop porn forever, but for sure building a more healthy relationship with it, and especially for not it being just a quick fix, a coping mechanism, and you not facing your problems. And the other class that Kanica did is about intentional, authentic, and also deeper relationships. It's for single and for couples. And both of those classes are amazing in order for us to live a more fulfilling life, a life full of love, a life full of connection, something we all want. Make sure to subscribe to the channel to not miss any of those juicy conversations, and I'll see you at the next episode.